What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to episode 109 of the U.S.S. Enterprise D tutorial. I'm Zero Elite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. If you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. Today we have about 24-minute episode. We're going to be working on some exterior detailing, continuing that on today. But before we get into that, be sure to join the Discord. I'll have a link in the description below. Right now I'm doing a poll on the next ship build. So once you join the Discord, you'll see on the left-hand side, next build poll. I won't go down the whole list, but I've accumulated a list based off the top requests on my YouTube channel. So definitely be sure to check that out. Really trying to grow up the Discord channel. It's been making moderate progress. I'm pretty happy with it so far. But what else? Before we get started today, also, we're working on 1,000 subscribers. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers, we're going to be doing a tutorial on the 2016 Star Trek Beyond Enterprise A. I'm really looking forward to that. So definitely be sure to check that out once we hit 1,000. And without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump right into today's episode. So we're going to be doing just a little bit of a tweak today on the front of the cells. We're going to be making the red strip in the front one block thicker, going all the way around. Now, something I talked about previously, but we haven't caught up to the recording of it yet, is that we're going to be reworking the front of my engines. I don't know why, but they just kind of stood out to me, looking very boxy. And I just kind of came up with the idea that, you know what, I can rebuild the shape of them more or less in the front, just in the very front end where this red dome is highlighted. Well, actually, from the yellow forward, we're going to be rebuilding that with half slabs. That's something that you're probably going to see a lot of going forward. Not necessarily on the Enterprise D, but probably a lot more of my builds in general. Where I'll be probably more than likely, as far as the starships go, using a combination of quartz and half slabs, so that this way I can blend my ships in a little bit better. Because one of the things I loved about this build was that with the half slabs, you really can't tell too much in the areas I use them, where they well, you obviously you can tell that I use them because they're half the size of a full block, but they blend in very nice, as opposed to like the Disco era Enterprise, where I've got the half slabs on the top of the saucer for the bridge and the piece directly behind it that goes all the way up to the impulse engine. Not that it doesn't look bad, but it kind of stands out, and that was one of the main reasons for doing that. On the Enterprise D, because I wanted the ship to all blend in together. Even though the ship is gray, mine is white for that reason alone, just so I could use the half slabs and it would blend in a little bit better. But I kind of went off on a little tangent there on why I'm using the half slabs more. But the point is that we're going to be kind of slightly reworking the front of our engines here a little bit more. We'll be extending them out one more time. I think we've already done it twice so far, but you know what? That's just going to be one of those things that, when you're working on when you're working on these ships from scratch, there's going to be a trial and error period. You're going to be making changes to them. That's just the way it's going to be. And if you think that you're going to pop on, and do it perfect the first time around, you're not being realistic about it. This is something that it takes a lot of patience to do. It's very rewarding and it's a lot of fun, but at the end of the day, it does take a lot of patience to build these ships, because sometimes there is a trial and error period. And I don't care how good you are, you're going to run into these scenarios. And this is one of the reasons why I try to show all the changes that I make, because I try to show my entire process from beginning to end. This is also why sometimes I show some of the things that maybe I can necessarily skip over in the tutorial. I try to show a platter of this stuff because maybe somebody might be having a problem with one of those things. So, I try to show a variety of this stuff when I'm doing these tutorials. But, I think we're making some pretty good progress here, switching gears a little bit. Still have a lot to do on this thing, though. And we're just going to kind of take it episode to episode, but at this point, I think I've been trying to be a little bit more optimistic in how long it's going to take me to complete the Enterprise D, but I still have a significant amount of recordings on this thing yet that I haven't even put out yet, not to mention all the work that I have yet to do. And, I don't want anybody to worry about it. I'm committed to finishing this thing, but, again, it's going to be one of those things that's going to take some time. We're building a massively large ship, and it takes a period of time to get it done. I wasn't expecting this thing to take up more than a year of my life working on it, but that's just kind of how it's worked out so far. Could end up taking up another year. Hopefully it doesn't, but if that's what it takes to get it done, that's what it takes. Now, I definitely like how we're looking with this red dome in the front. Now, my main reason for doing this and stretching it out a little bit was because it looked very stubby before. So I wanted to stretch out that red piece to make it look just a little bit longer than it was before. You can see even with that full block in the very front row there, I extended that out by 2 so this way it matched the rest of the pattern here. I'm trying to give it more of an elongated look because before we even added these extra rows, it looked very stubby before, and this is ultimately going to lean into us making that final revision on the front of the engines. But we won't be getting into that today. Just a minor tweak. Now, if you're happy with how these engines look right now, feel free to leave them as they are. But like I said, we will be redesigning the very front of them from the yellow strip going forward, and we'll be extending them out one more time just to make them a little bit longer. And then, yeah. But I think we're going to be switching gears on what we're going to be working on here. I think we're going to be doing just a little bit of work here to, well, actually, no, we're in a moment we'll be working on the neck primarily. I think we have a little bit of work to do on the back side of the neck, and then also we're going to be adding in some more windows today. As you see there on the red strip there, I'm trying to give it a little bit of a curve so it's not so boxy, because it does kind of curve on that backside there. That doesn't look terrible, so we'll do the same thing on both sides on the right engine, and then again repeat that process on the left engine. I'm really trying to make it a point to get out as many episodes as I can right now, because some of you may have noticed I'm actually putting out episodes on Saturdays now. I'm not going to go back to what it was when I was doing the Disco Era Enterprise, because I think when I did the Disco Era Enterprise, I think at one point I was doing episodes Mondays through Fridays, and that ended up being a lot of work to do. It was actually a great learning experience for me as far as setting realistic expectations for myself. So what I've ended up doing now, so I can still have free time to do the things I want to do when I'm outside, when I'm off work. I end up doing my videos now on Saturdays and Sundays as far as editing them together. So like this week, this is actually the first week I'm doing it in this order, where I'm recording 2 episodes on Saturdays. Well, recording the commentary, I'm doing 2 episodes on Saturdays and 2 episodes on Sundays, and editing everything together, and I'll put out those episodes. So this way they just, and I'll set them to premiere, and they'll come out during the course of the week. And that's actually been working out really good for me so far. I just need to stay in a habit of getting it out. I know a week ago I didn't have an episode on Saturday, and I apologize for that, but I actually had a death in the family very suddenly. One of my first cousins passed away very tragically. I won't get into it too much, but that was the reason why I didn't end up doing anything that Saturday, because I was in shambles, and I didn't want to do anything. But then that Sunday, I just decided, like, you know what, like, I need to get my mind off stuff and just kind of focus on something else. And that's one of the things that Minecraft is great for. If you want to forget about stuff for a little while, work on your Minecraft project, whether you're doing editing for a build that you're working on the video side of it, or you're working on the build itself. You get on Minecraft and you start doing that stuff, it'll take your mind off some things. But yeah, you know, moving on, because I don't really want to talk about that tragedy too much. But we're looking pretty good. You can see we've extended out our red strips here in the front. They're not looking too bad. They look more tubular in the front, going at that angle how they should be. But then the full blocks there, it's kind of messing up. Not necessarily messing it up, but it's not giving me the look that I wanted to have. And that'll again, you know, tie into exactly why we're going to be making the change that we're going to be making here on the front of the engines. Not necessarily the next couple of episodes, because it was actually something I did a little recently. I think I did it like 3 weeks ago. But we're not looking too bad. But you know what? There is light at the end of the tunnel on the Enterprise D, because we're almost done with the outside of the ship. Not where we are right now in the tutorial, but where I'm presently at on the build. I'm basically done with the outside of it. I've got to do the registration. I've got to do a couple of windows on the saucer and on the lower hull along the sides here. And then I'm pretty much done with the outside. And then I've just got to flesh out the interior for the lower back end of the lower hull here. And then I've pretty much got to do, I think there's 2 decks or 3 decks that I'm going to finish up on the neck. And then I've just got to flesh out the crew deck with all the quarters, and then the medical deck, and then this thing is actually done. So on my side of it, where I'm at, actually not that long to go, but you guys are a little bit ways off behind me. You know, there was a reason why I held off on starting this thing when I did. And, you know, there's totally a rhythm to my madness, and why there's completely a reason why I make the decisions that I make on Minecraft. And this is no different. That, you know, I really wanted to make a point that I'm not starting off my tutorials right as I start the build, and I do this intentionally, so this way, for whatever reason, if I get stuck, then I have some leeway. Now, I want to get into what we got going on here. You see I'm making some tweaks here to the neck, to the backbone. Now, I've started a cut line here upwards, but we're going to have to slide this over, because we need to maintain this cut row right here, which is pretty much what I'm trying to do. But for whatever reason, I'm building it right here, but really I should be moving it over to this row. So this way we have this nice cut line here that transitions downward. Because again, you know, one of my rules that go with your patterns, because you go with your patterns, then it starts to become a lot easier for you to spot out these mistakes, or not necessarily mistakes, but variations in your build. So this way you can have everything match up a little bit better. You can see on the left side here, I just kind of filled it in, which is something that we could do too. That actually doesn't necessarily look that bad. I think at this point we could actually get away with that, and I don't think anybody would necessarily turn an eye to it, because even though I just said one of my rules is going with a cut line, we're still following a pattern here, and there are some times you can make an exception to this. I think right here is that it looks a little bit better here with the half slabs going the direction that they are, or opposed if we just have this cut line, it's really only going to be going down to this row right here. So really not going to be utilizing it that much. If you really want to, I mean, you can definitely add in that cut line, but I'm kind of thinking at this point that we just flatten all that out and it'll look a little bit better. Yes, that doesn't look bad. It really doesn't look bad. Only thing I'm not 100% thrilled with is that when we added the strip here going down the sides, there is kind of a lip once we get up to just a little bit above the impulse engine on the sides here. But to be honest with you, I really don't think it's necessarily that big of a deal. I mean, if I really, really wanted to, I could probably go back and blend them in a little bit more, and that might ultimately be something that I end up doing. Um, but I don't believe I've even done that presently. All right, so now we're going to be switching gears again. We're still working on the backbone of our neck, but now we're adding in some more windows. I've actually got to swap out the type of glass that I'm using because I think the one that was using before was the tinted glass. It almost has like a purple hue to it. Feels like it's a little bit darker than the one that we have just put down. And yeah, let's see what that is. It is a tinted glass. Cool. No, so and what I'm doing here on my patterns with the windows, as you can see, I'm not placing them in a random placement. Um, what I'm pretty much doing right now is I have a picture up of the backbone of the neck, and I'm just kind of getting a feel for the placement on where these windows are. And I'm not trying to make anything that's one for one perfectly down to the T exact to what it's supposed to be. Just more of a reference that, trying to keep it within that pattern for the most part. It can vary here and there, is what I'm getting at. It doesn't have to be 100%. I'll get people here and there that um, will make these suggestions on things that should be done with the ships, and it'll almost be like in a debating way that will be like, well, this is the better way to do it, and this is how I'm going to do it. And I'll never debate people like that, or just in general, because I say this all the time when I'm doing my videos. There's a million and one ways to build these ships, and all I'm showcasing here in my tutorial is what worked for me in building this Enterprise D. But what I'm doing here, some of these things may not work for you. Or maybe the solution, maybe when I'm presented with a problem, my solution isn't necessarily working for yourself. So at that point, embrace that, try to figure out ways to get around that and what you can do to fix it. And if it varies from what I'm doing, hey, that's awesome, because then you're becoming a better builder at that point, and you're finding out your own solutions to a problem. But there's no set way in doing these things. There's a million and one ways to do it, and you'll never ever hear me say that this is the only way it has to be done. You have to do it this way. And it's just my opinion. Anybody that does say that, they're 101% full of crap, because it's just not the way that it is. That's honestly one of the things I love about Minecraft, is because um, there's a lot of different techniques that you can do with building these ships. Me myself, I go with the cut lines and the patterns. I personally think that it looks prettier. There's a lot of people that don't necessarily build that way. One of the things I have noticed, specifically with the Enterprise D, not so much with some of my other builds, that even going with a cut line, I ended up having a couple of sharper angles on my Enterprise D, whereas on the real Enterprise, it was a little bit more curved. But you know what? I'm not even really all that concerned about it, because um, there's always going to be that um, transition period on Minecraft of making or switching something from the real world over into a block format. Now, can it be done? Yeah, I've seen it done, but again, this is just kind of what's worked for me, and that I've ended up being the happiest with. And even where I'm at right now in the Enterprise D, I'm still not 100% satisfied with where I'm at on it. I'd say that I'm within the 98% um, satisfaction uh, on this build. I think at this point, my biggest gripe right now, I've the curve here on the neck. Like looking at it from the back, looking forward, it should almost curve a little bit more, as opposed to mine's going in like a V. And the only other gripe that I have is the overall shape the front of the lower hull here, I've got a little bit more of a lip than what the Enterprise D is supposed to have, and this is the angular part that I'm talking about. But with that being said, it honestly does not look bad. I think that if I hadn't even mentioned those things, I don't think anybody would bat an eye at it because, to be honest with you, nobody's even said a word to me about it to begin with. This is just one of my own criticisms. Um, and it's not a bad thing to have that attitude. It's really not, because um, being your own worst critic can help you to become a better shipbuilder, because you'll look for areas that you made mistakes. This is something that I do anytime before, I go when I start a new build, or maybe like if I'm building an area on a ship that's close to what I was working on with another ship, I'll go and I'll look at it before I do anything, just to see what I did and see if there's ways that I can make it better. That's something that I'm always trying to do. If I can make something, if I can continuously improve on what I'm doing, that's ultimately going to be the goal. Because, I am very much so trying to improve and get better as a shipbuilder on here. Not that I'm bad, but, compared to where I was when I was first starting out, I've made leaps and bounds. And it's because of that attitude of continuously wanting to improve. Um, Now, one thing I can say that if you're newer to shipbuilding and this is the first tutorial that you're seeing, I don't want to sway you away from doing the Enterprise D. But what I am saying is that maybe you should start off with a smaller build first. I've got a couple of the mock tutorials on my YouTube channel right now. Those are great starters. And from there, I've got the Disco era Constitution class, as well as the Cerritos. Those ships are on a scale to where if you make a mistake, it's a lot less costly to fix those mistakes. Whereas opposed in the Enterprise D, where if you do make a mistake, you're going to pay for it, and you're going to be working on it for a little while to fix it because of the size of the ship, and that's what I'm getting at here. And that's why I'll say, start off with something smaller. Now, I can't honestly say the hardest part that you're probably going to run into working on the Enterprise D, and it's just that it's not even necessarily that it's hard, is just that it's tricky. That's the saucer. That's not even necessarily going to be the Enterprise D. That's just these ships in general. Unless you're fully familiar with working with the pixel circle generator, you're probably going to run into a problem here or there. I try to include most of the stuff that you're, or if not all of it, that you're supposed to do on the tutorials. But what I'm thinking I'm going to end up doing here, I've done a mock tutorial for my corridors for anybody that was struggling with those. I'm ultimately going to end up doing a tutorial on pixel circle generator and working with circles and ovals, because there is a set rule to things that you should be doing when you're working on these ships. And if you're running into a problem where your oval isn't matching up to with dimensions, or your circle isn't matching up, it's because you made an error somewhere. This is something that I'm even guilty of, because, like, prime example, when I was working on the Disco Era Enterprise, one of my inner rings, I ended up missing, I think it was like 3 or 4 lines out of the pattern, and it wasn't a complete circle. It was jacked up in the angle. I had to go back and redo it. And even this just goes into, again, that even if you pay attention to what you're doing, you can still make mistakes. But I just challenge everybody to don't be so arrogant to think that you can't make mistakes, because if you do, then you're selling yourself short from being able to correct those errors if and when they happen. And hopefully, if I can, I'll help people out if I can. The only thing I won't do is argue with people. So if it reaches that point, I'll just stop answering them. But yeah, I'm going to be doing a tutorial on the pixel circle generator, because I think that'll be really helpful. I'm going to try to do it in the easiest way possible, because I think one of the things that people have been running into an issue with is that I've been trying to start off, or give you your starting point, and make things easier than what the reality of it is. And there's no other way to get around it. I count out my centers. That's the easiest way to get your placement. It's also very time consuming, and that's a lot of the reasons why I do these tutorials. I just tell you your starting point, counting off the lip of the ship, so this way you don't have to go back and spend all that time trying to count out the center because it takes some time to do that. But no, definitely keep an eye out for that. I don't know if I'm going to end up working on that today because um, I have some other things that I want to get into, but that's going to be coming out here pretty soon. And I think that'll be very, very helpful for people um, that are newer to shipbuilding or have never really worked with ovals or circles all that much with the pixel circle generator. I think once I get that out, that'll be a huge asset. So this way, if I do happen to have anybody that's having problems with the pixel circle generator, or they're having issues with placement, or getting their circle to come out perfectly, I'm going to go over the things that you need to do to ensure that this doesn't happen. um, because I do pay attention to what people say in the comments section. But at the end of the day, you know, when I'm doing these tutorials, I'm not going to anticipate everything. Um, I can anticipate everything that I'm coming, every issue that I'll hit, and I try to go over a variety of ways that you can fix that if and when that we hit these problems. But ultimately, I'm not always going to run into or foresee some of the issues that somebody else might have. Because again, this goes back into everybody builds differently, everybody has a different mindset. So that has a much larger margin for error, or running into errors, because people are so different in how they build these things. But yeah, definitely keep an eye out for that. I expect that as the channel continues to grow, this was something that I'll continue to do. As any trends that I notice that people are having issues with certain things, I'll do a quick video on things that you can do to fix this, just to try to help it out, help myself out. So this way I don't have to keep going back and answering the same question over again, and also showing it visually. Because if you're watching this tutorial, a lot of you are like myself, you're a very visual person. So that'll be another reason why that tutorial will really come in handy. But getting back in a little bit, we got going on here, we're kind of working on the seashell pattern underneath the saucer. That's the best way I can describe it. That's pretty much what it looks like. You can see we did our cuts with the half slabs. Now we're switching off. I had the gray as an underside highlight, but the gray, it didn't look right. So we're getting rid of that. I think we're ultimately going to end up doing either white concrete to give it a slight gray look, or just going with the quartz. One of the things recently that I was thinking about doing, I don't know why, but I thought that these cuts here on the underside, I thought they had stripes of yellow in them. So I thought about maybe doing that, but I really, I need to go back and look at some pictures to see if it is that color. But that's definitely a detail that needs to be there underneath the ship, because that is there. Um, but yeah, I think that's going to wrap us up today. We've got a little bit of work done. We're getting some detailing done here and there. But we're definitely going to be going back and forth between the outside of the ship and the inside of the ship going forward. There is still a ton of work to do, but we're just going to knock this out one episode at a time, one section at a time, until this thing is done. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap it up for me today. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. And if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And new subscribers, don't forget to hit notifications on so you get notified when those new videos drop. And speaking of new videos, you can always catch my new Minecraft episodes dropping Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. But anyway, I think that's going to wrap it up for me today. I hope everybody has a happy and safe week. And of course, what did you make of Minecraft today? Let me know in the comments section.